Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining us on another Build Your Agency webinar. Today, we're going to talk about how to captivate your leads. And if you guys remember from the last webinar, where you guys joined me and Joshua, we talked about how to actively and passively drive leads to your website. This time around, though, the person that I've got joining me on the webinar is William. And for those of you guys that have been having conversations with us, I don't think William needs much introduction.
Right. I think there's a difference, though, with how they had Itamar on the first webinar for this series, and then we had Josh on the next one. In this case, I think more so to do with how we've set up from our side, really, how we deal with partners in general, and how we've decided everyone should have that same customer experience. And I'd love to share you with you guys.
And because part of the topic coverage is about qualifying your leads and deciding who to prioritize and who your best friends are over the next 30 days and using the CRM, the person that probably manages and qualifies more people than I do in this office is William. So I think he's the perfect partner to have in this webinar. So without much ado, I wanted to give you guys a quick review of what we've covered so far. On the Build Your Agency webinar series, we talked about the elements of a killer agency website. And this is when Itamar and I talked about how to simulate a connection, how to create a connection with your potential target audience on your website, and how to display proof of your expertise by being very visual, by having your portfolio there, by having a video recording. And then Joshua and I talked about how to drive leads to your agency. And this was about passive lead generation and active lead generation. We gave you guys a couple of email samples in that webinar. And we also rolled out the wait list for the second time in that webinar. Now today we're going to talk about how to captivate your leads, and this is about how to keep those relationships warm by nurturing them, continuously providing value to the people inside your leads list, closing them better by qualifying the hottest leads, by segmenting them and sending them the right message at the right time, and then simulating the care in the relationship. So on the last webinar, we talked about how to drive new leads to your agency website, and we talked about some passive lead generation activities, active lead generation activities, and then some samples of how to communicate with the leads that you already have.
Right.
In a few slides from now, I'll actually show you guys sort of like a bit of a summary of what we covered in that webinar. But for this conversation,
we're going to focus mainly on how you can leverage a system that we've built on our side that allow you to qualify leads, segment them, and nurture them through targeted communication. Because a lot of our larger partners already have a system in place, and we've learned a few things from them too, and they've picked up a few things from us. But for a good number of you, what we want to show you is that when it comes to a point, if you're successfully driving leads towards any platform that you've created to scoop them up, that you'll need a system in place to help you prioritize and develop relationships depending on which stage they're all going to be in.
Right. And while we know that our business model isn't exactly the same as yours, because you guys talk to the website owners immediately,
right?
And what we do is we build agency partnerships. That doesn't mean that some of our best practices can't be applied to your businesses. So let's do another quick recap again of the conversation from the previous webinar. At this point in the conversation, what we are expecting is that you will be versed with local SEO, or at least one of the services.
Right.
That you will have already built your killer agency website. That you will have gone to Eventbrite or Facebook and looked for events that you can go to. That you will have gone to some of them, shaken hands, exchanged business cards, and acquired emails by doing live site audits from your website via your phone. And of course, some active lead generation efforts, like maybe send out emails. If you guys followed some of our tips from the last webinar, doing a search on Google for a vertical or an industry and the local area that you service, or by using a lead generation tool. And what this would have given you would be your initial lead pool that you need to work on today. And what we're going to teach you today is what to do with that lead pool.
So we're going to focus on one primary model on how to qualify your leads, but we'll show you three of them.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is the BANT model, and that focuses on the budget, their authority, who the authority is, the need, and the time frame. We
Mhm.
also have the GPCTBA, and that's the goals, plans, challenges, timeline, and budget authority. CHAMP is challenges, authority, money, and priority. Now, you may be following a certain model already, but for this webinar, we'd like to focus on the BANT model.
Right. And what you'll notice is that all these models are essentially the same.
Right.
Except for the fact that, one acronym is different from the other and so on and so forth. But again, for the purpose of consistency in this webinar, what we want to talk to you guys about is budget, authority, need, and time frame. Meaning, as you unearth more information related to the budget, to the decision maker, to the need of the business, and the time frame at which they're willing to buy, the warmer they are in your sales funnel. And this is sort of what we mean. When you qualify leads, some leads are more closable than others. And I guess I'll let William explain this a bit further, because these are the pieces of information you try to dig up when you have these initial conversations with them on Kickstarts, right?
Exactly. Well, when business development speaks with any partner and they're talking to us about where their client is in the sales journey, we try to get more info. It's probably a little more about questions here and there, which we'll show you later on. But the closability is determined by where they are exactly, where your client is exactly in that sales funnel.
Right, or in their journey. In their buyer's journey.
So by identifying where they are, it will help you at least understand how many touch points you're going to need to work with them and what kind of sales activities you'll need to perform.
Right.
And I guess the most important is really how much time you have with them. And then that's sort of related to time frame. But another good one, and that's why we put it here, and we'll focus on these four, is the access to the decision maker.
Right.
Are
you talking to the guy that will wind up signing the dotted line?
Is this the person that's going to give you the go?
Right. Because let's face it, again, you have a finite amount of time every month, and your time is valuable. And it's one thing for you to spend that time with decision makers versus spending that time with the VAs that they might have that are sourcing for providers for them in an area. So again, the closer you are to the decision maker, the more commitment that potential customer has than someone that's just sending you a VA to talk to.
Right.
And then, of course, again, like we've always said in the previous webinars, if your services match their needs, you have a moral obligation to close that sale to the best of your ability.
Mm-hmm.
But they may need something that you don't currently offer, and walking away from a sale like that is also perfectly fine.
I definitely agree.
So let's show you guys a practical application of this.
So what we have here are examples. Well, this is a very good example of lead scoring.
Mm-hmm.
And we have on the left qualifying questions that focus on the closability, the time frame, the budget, need, and that's all pretty much in here. But we've ranked them basically on how well the response is and how many of those factors are inside the questions. I mean, the answers that you'll get will cover at least 2 or 3 or even all of them.
Right. Or I guess to briefly say it, the amount of points we allocated to each question determines, that means that it's a more essential question to get answered, and that question leads to multiple answers that identify budget, authority, need, and time frame. An example, I'll start us off, and I won't start us off on the first question. I'll actually go with, do you have reports that you can share with us from your previous provider? Our version of this is, have you had a previous provider before? Did you have a previous private label provider before? Whenever we talk to agencies,
have you outsourced work before?
Right? Have you outsourced SEO before? Have you outsourced web development work before? And for us, the hottest leads are the ones that wind up saying yes to that question, because it means that in the sales funnel, in the customer's journey, these people have already gone through the pains of being aware of what the service is. They've already taken the effort to educate themselves.
Right.
And so they are in the consideration phase. It's not a question of if they're going to get the service. It's a question of who they will subscribe that service with, right? So as far as commitment levels go, that question gives you the most committed prospects. But what about the first question, Will? Like, why do we ask? Why do we ask that?
Well, we ask why we ask them how they feel about their brand and how does it stand online. So are they digital ready today? It allows us to understand what their current needs are and if they
Right.
actually have been able to identify that.
Right.
And then essentially, I also have a time frame.
Right.
Today is really the question right there. So
Right. That's actually and that's the reason why we insert that word at the end of that statement, because it gives you their sense of commitment and their sense of urgency. That question would be drastically different if you just ask, why do you feel your brand is digitally ready, versus why do you feel your brand is digitally ready today?
right, or a little more salesy. I just let's switch the word.
Right.
Are you ready to go? Is your brand ready to go digital today?
Right.
You know.
Right. And then the third question is, how much of your marketing budget are you planning to allocate to digital? Now, most of the time, people are very private with money and they're not going to give you an exact figure. But when you ask them what portion of a marketing budget they're willing to allocate to digital, you do subtly unearth the budget need.
Yep.
But you also get to find out how large that business is based off of whether they reveal what their overall marketing budget is, or so on and so forth. But this one tells you immediately how large the business is, and it tells you whether they have a budget to allocate to your services. The next one is,
What would define success for you with a campaign like this?
right, and this is largely an emotional question, which is why it's a commitment question. And that's why a positive response only sort of gives you a one, because it tells you how committed they are, but it doesn't necessarily give you budget, authority, need, and time frame. It can reveal authority though.
Right, exactly. Because I think the person with the most emotion in the
Right,
answer and response
right.
is the decision maker. So,
Right. And the one with the clearest vision for what defines success normally for a campaign is typically the business owner. The next one is, will you be managing the project yourself, or will you be assigning a point of contact for approvals and communication? So you again unearth your access to authority. Are you
Right.
talking to the decision maker? But you also get to discover what the size of the business is. Is this person a one-man show? Is it going to get run by a relative, a sibling, a spouse?
yeah,
Or are they running it with staff already existing on hand? And remember that the ones that can have a point of contact for you in the business are probably the more serious ones, the ones that can seriously allocate a budget, and the ones that can sign a contract today.
exactly.
So now that you've figured out how to qualify leads, what you want to do is figure out who are your best friends for the next 30 days, meaning who are the people you set to automation, who are the people you set to nurture, and who are the ones that you need to park because they're way high up in the buyer's journey, meaning they're only at the awareness and education phase. While these people may not be your best friends in the next 30 days, they could be in the future. But the key word here is in the future. So when do you disqualify your leads?
So let's start with the first one. It's a client that's probably outside of your market. And two good examples is the first would be you don't have the means to be able to service them within your area.
Right.
And the second is they're actually probably requesting for a service or they're looking for something that you're not currently able to offer them at
Right.
this point.
So it might be wrong service or wrong geo target.
Right. And then that was a good example that you had earlier when you mentioned that if you notice that you're talking to a client who has specific needs. I remember just recently one of the business development officers was talking to an AdWords, to an AdWords agency, and their client they wanted to move really quickly. They had a large, sizable amount on budget to work with, and he felt that he did them justice by making sure that he wanted them to tell them that just was a problem with the campaign being as it were. We couldn't work with them, and the agency
right,
couldn't work
because the
with them.
target pages were not in a domain the client control.
Right.
Right.
They just wanted push. The
Right.
need was highest the most. But in terms of being able to service them, no, we couldn't.
Right. The other thing that could cause you to disqualify your leads might be because there's no idea of what the budget is. And most of the time, if people don't have any idea of the budget, they'll probably not have any idea for the time frame or the results that they want. A budget is a strong commitment indicator. A lot of people think that you want to ask for the budget just so that you know whether to spend time with this person or not. But a budget is really a strong commitment indicator, and that's why you always ask for it. Not because you want to know if you can close the sale,
Yeah.
but you want to know, is this person committed to getting this service? And people with no budgets are typically less committed than people with known budgets. Another one might be sent them an email, gave them a ring, you got the voicemail, never responded, didn't open your emails, or so on and so forth. This would be a reason for you to downgrade their level of hotness. So not necessarily for you to take them off your list,
Right.
but you may need to downgrade their level of hotness, meaning you're going to relegate them to be one of your best friends past the 90th day.
Right. And then the next one is that you don't have any access to the decision maker.
Right.
You're not talking to the guy that's going to move it forward.
Right.
A good example of this is speaking to
A VA.
a VA who's
Right.
actually just doing research because their boss told them to find
Right.
the 5 best SEO
Right.
agencies in the area.
Right. And it doesn't matter how good your salesmanship is, you're talking to the wrong guy. And so it doesn't help. The next one is, of course, when we tell you guys that if your need has the potential to improve a business, if your service has the potential to improve people's lives, you are morally obliged to close that sale to the best of your ability.
Right. Go
But,
for it.
but the flip side is true. If your service does not add value to another business, then by all means, don't be afraid to walk away from a sale.
Yeah.
So how do you apply these principles? It should lead you to a chart that's similar to the next slide. But before I move us on to the chart, I wanted you guys to know that you can download the lead nurturing kit from our resources page. Also, you might have noticed the bit.ly link on the left. This is if you guys want to get on our wait list
Mm-hmm.
for the software that we have been featuring over the past few webinars, and we will shamelessly plug it again in the latter
Later
part
on,
of this
yeah.
conversation. But let's move you back to why you're here. This is an example of how to prioritize leads.
I know that some of you are familiar already with lead temperatures, and you'll notice how we rank them. Of course, we got hot, warm, nurture, and then the last option is disqualify. We have specific criteria where the lead score totals to a point where if it's hot, you'll get a full score of 10, and you'll cover all 4 aspects of the band. Yes, the need, closability, time frame, and access to the decision maker.
Right.
This is somebody you're going to have to move on with. I mean, you'll have to move really quickly with, and less touch points here, but always the phone call. Warm is, one thing is probably missing, or 2 things, but it leans more with a higher score.
Right. But I guess just as a reminder to everybody, if you remember the chart from a couple of slides ago, not only does a no to a question deprive them of the points or deprive them of the score, there is also an attributed negative score to when
Right.
it's a no, right? Do you remember that the chart said -1 on the right side in case they gave you a negative answer? And that's why after hot, if they miss one of the questions that are worth 2 points, it immediately downgrades them to a 7, because not only do they get the 2 points, they also get subtracted 1.
Exactly.
So yeah, and it might only be one element that you're missing.
Then you'll have nurture, which is you'll get negative points and you get positive points, but anything with reaches a 6 is a yes to need or just an access to decision making.
Right,
Based off
so-
of our scoring.
Right. So out of the 5 questions that we taught you guys to ask, only 2 things may be true, and it can only get them to a maximum score of 6. It is also possible that they might only get to a score of below 5, meaning the only things that might be true are yes, access to decision maker, or
Yeah,
yes,
but-
I know what success for this campaign will look like, and that's it.
Right, yeah.
And so those are the ones that you want to put on the back burner because they may need more education to come from you. So let's talk about sunsetting leads. Sunsetting leads and disqualifying leads are 2 very different things. Disqualifying leads are when there's no need, meaning your service is not a match for what they need right now. It's not even plausible, or it's not even realistic for you to be there when they're ready to buy. They're just not ready to buy. But sunsetting leads or leads that you sunset are not necessarily leads that will not be ready to buy. These are the leads that could be ready to buy in the future. And so sunsetting is the activity in marketing when you downgrade a lead's hotness. And some of the things that might lead you to downgrade a lead's hotness are the following.
For example, at some point, let's imagine that a client was originally hot, and then later on in the conversation, as they're moving down the sales funnel, you realize they don't have a budget. And they don't have a budget now, but they're trying to come up with it, and they'll prepare for next year. But that's one good reason why you'd move them downwards. Another
Right.
is when the timing isn't just right. This is this is a client that you're going to have to nurture until they're ready to buy, but still you'll need to move them down for whatever status they were in at that point.
Right. They're not at the close or action. They're not at the action part or the close part of the sales funnel.
And then lastly, you'll have you'll have it where they don't have any let needs. You'll have to uncover and build a
Right.
for them
The
right
the
now.
needs are very fundamental, or they're very vague, or they're not very clear, or they're not very measurable, which means you have to do a lot of qualifying first. So you have to get into conversations with them and help them visualize what their goals are and help them identify what a reasonable budget is. But in short, again, they're not as committed or as mature down the sales funnel as you would like. And that's what we mean when they say they have latent leads. Now, the screenshot that you guys are seeing on the right is what it actually looks like when you use our CRM. The CRM does two things. It algorithmically sunsets customers that you are not in touch with or are not responsive to you in a 30-day period. And that's why you could see people move from warm to cold or move from hot to warm.
Right.
And you could do it manually yourself also. Whether you use our tool or another tool doesn't matter, but you do need a CRM because you don't want the maintenance of your relationships left up to thoughtfulness.
Right.
You want to be disciplined and consistent when it comes to communicating with your leads.
Now, we're going to talk about how to segment your leads based off of everything that we've seen so far, from being able to score them based on how they were qualified and then determining what their lead temperature is. We're going to split that up into two. And what we have first is, what product are they going for? What is their specific need or target or goal? And what commodity are they interested in? And then the second one is the quality.
Right.
What was the quality of the lead?
Right. And I guess in tabular form, it sort of looks like this. So what you guys are looking at is a segmentation table, and the table essentially segments them to services, the kind of services that they need, and the lead temperature. So you're segregating them based off of service and based off of lead hotness. Now, because the first webinar for the year was talking about local SEO, I'll stick to that.
Right, yeah.
Let's operate under the assumption that you guys had listened to that webinar, downloaded our white papers, understood what it is, educated yourselves, went to Eventbrite, shook hands, built a killer website, built your LinkedIn page, connected to the right people on Facebook, and so on and so forth. Run some audits. You may have acquired in the past 5 months a total of 41 leads. What do you do with those 41 leads? Not all of those 41 leads are equally valuable. But when you ran them through the questions that we just showed you earlier, you wind up with 15 leads out of the 41 scoring a perfect 10.
Right.
You wind up with 12 of them scoring somewhere between a 7 to a 9 or a 7 to an 8. And then you wind up with 14 that are cold. Essentially, the hot ones are your best friends for the first 30 to 60 days. Will, how long? What is our turnaround? What is our average conversion time?
We usually have it about 81 to 80, safely 81 to 90, 80 to 90
80
days.
to 90 days,
Yeah.
right? Is our best conversion rates, right? And so just because someone won't convert in the first 30 days doesn't necessarily mean they aren't hot leads. And what you want to do is make sure that the hottest leads are the ones that get 80% of your attention. Now, why is that? Because the hot leads are the ones that are closest to the end of the sales funnel.
Yeah, all they need to do is just make a decision.
Right. These are the people that have already made themselves aware, taken the pains to educate themselves, are clearly interested in the service, are just deciding who to go with. So it's not so much a question for them of if they're going to buy, it's who they're going to buy from.
Right.
And they are more mature down the sales funnel. And that's why the ones at the bottom of the sales funnel must get 80% of your attention. Because, your time is valuable and so is theirs. But if you were work and life balancing correctly, you only have 160 working hours every month.
Mm-hmm.
You want those 160 hours to be at their most effective.
We're going to now talk about how to nurture. So we know now where they're all going to be.
Right.
You know how many of them are in place and where they're all in the sales journey or the buyer's journey. So in order for you to keep the relationship warm, you'll have to remain in constant communication with them. And we want you to be able to help, we want you to be able to figure out what the right content for the right stage is.
Mm-hmm.
And we also want you to make sure that the right message is in place too at the right time. And lastly, of course, sorry about that, we want you to be able to automate these responses in certain stages. But we'll show you, based off of the sales funnel that's coming up next, where exactly and what kind of content we're going to be writing.
This is actually the portion where you automate a bit.
Yeah.
And that's why we're showing this to you. Here's sort of how it works. This is your sales funnel. And at certain sections of their maturity in their customer journey, in their buyer's journey, they are more receptive or more susceptible to certain types of content. And we provide you guys a lot of this content, by the way. If you don't have our materials yet, go to the dashboard and download the white label materials, the white papers, the case studies, and study them so that you understand what kind of content you're sending at what stage.
So let's look at the funnel. Now that we know where the cold leads are, the warm leads are, and the hot leads are, we're going to develop content based off of what stages they're facing. So when cold leads are talking to you, you know that they require a bit of awareness and education. So what we have here is hub content. These are product guides, a process flow, and methodology explainers. It's all about getting them to understand what it is exactly that you're selling.
Right. You're educating them.
Right, and so that they have a better understanding, so that they know what the value is.
Right.
And this is a conversation that also this, just to remind you all, this is this most other agencies also have their own funnels. So it depends on who gets to them first, who responds quicker, and who goes straight into the message. So when they show interest now, and they're starting to ask questions really about how you guys do the work, or what the quality of the work is, or what a little more details, or have you done it for anyone else? This is the heroic content. It's time for you to look good.
Right.
These are the white papers, the case studies, the audits, the demos. They're going to want to work with you now. And that's when they've gotten to a point of desire. And when they've tipped over, they're essentially going to want to ask you how to get started.
Meaning they've already decided, I know I need this service, right?
And I know now I need it from you.
Right.
What do we do next?
Right. Or should I get it now? Right?
Or what else do I need?
Or are you going to have a good deal in the next 30 days? Are you going to have a Black Friday sale? So something sort of like that, right?
Exactly. So all of that, testimonials, promos or discounts, monthly newsletters, even it being contracts with
right.
Yeah, with
because sometimes all they're waiting for is an irresistible deal.
Right.
They already know they're going to make the purchase. This happens to me, by the way, all the time.
Yeah.
I know I'm already going to make a purchase of something. I'm just waiting on a good deal.
And when it's very, very specific to you.
When it's a very unique, true.
Yeah.
That's true. So let's simplify this by turning this to customer journey versus sales funnel. Essentially, this is a buyer's journey, and it's exactly the same as a sales funnel, except it's horizontal. And an example of a sequence or a drip would look like this. When you start off contacting these leads and they start off cold, your initial email would be an email sample, and we'll show you one. But you would attach a product guide to help them along the education phase of the buyer's journey. You send them a follow-up email educating them a little more, and to help them further along their awareness and their education phases, you send them methodology explainers. They respond to the email, which means they become warmer. As they become warmer, you send them something more personal, an audit of their website.
Now that's value.
Right, and that's personal because it's their website. Once you've done that, you now need to tug on their emotional heartstrings by sending them a case study that talks about what kind of success you've driven for someone else, right, and how you could drive the same thing for them.
Right.
And if they respond to that, these are your warmest leads. In order to get them through the door, in order to get their foot in the door, all they might have been waiting for might have been an offer, an incentive in order for you to convert them today. Might be a discount, might be a special offer. But it's definitely something that adds more value than what you've put up till today.
Right.
So let's take a look at the sequence with a little more detail. When you automate, this is how a drip would look like.
Yeah, marketing drip. And you'll notice that there are there are certain email sequences here. You could set it to either 2 or 3 times a month.
Right.
It really depends. If you have a strong campaign, you can change the frequency
Right.
too. You also have to assign a sequence until a particular goal is reached.
Right.
Then you can have them enter another campaign.
Right. And the goal that you reach is typically response. That's what you want.
Right. And the kind of response that you expect them to be in when they move on to that stage. So what we have here is on the very left, the need or the service that they're gunning for, and then that's how you group them. And then we have 4 emails per stage, and we break them down by temperature. So you'll notice on the cold, you'll send an email out, and you're sharing industry tips. It could be, "Hi, John.
Right.
The last time we spoke, we shared a lot about what was going on. I want to send you some more industry tips."
Right.
And let's say he doesn't respond, so you talk a bit more about SEO in general, or
And send
how
them a
AdWords
methodology
works.
explainer. Right.
That's a methodology explainer. If they respond, and it's a question really more of like, "Great, I love the stuff that you've done. Can you show me a bit more? What do you think about my website?" Warm, automatically warm.
Right.
Audit. Send an audit. Now it gets specific about them. So then another response, white paper. And then now they're asking, "So how does this all work? Is there a way, can we get on a video?" Or, "Great, now they're hot.
Right.
Here comes a demo video." But nothing happens in hot without a phone call.
Right. Absolutely. Nothing happens in hot without you being in their office, in their face, or you giving them a call. Because this is the point in time where you being present is most crucial. So we didn't just want to harp on, send an email to a lead that's slightly cold, send an email to a warmer lead or a hot lead. So we've got a couple of examples. Let's take these by turns, Will.
Sure.
So I'll start off with a cold email template. A cold email template might look like, "Hi, John. I hope your business is doing well. I know you still have lots of questions about digital marketing. Believe me, I did too when I was starting out. My team's created this digital marketing methodology explainer to help you understand more about digital marketing. If you have questions or if you have feedback about the content, feel free to write back. Looking forward to hearing from you." So this is an example of initial contact or
Right.
email, but the lead you're talking to is in the education phase. Now, what happens if they respond? They become a bit warmer.
Exactly. An example of that is, "Hey, John, I wanted to follow up on that site audit I sent last week. I think you'll find that your website has a lot of potential. I've attached a white paper to help you understand more about our service and how it works for your business. I'd love to hear what you think. Feel free to ring me up in any case you have questions." So
Right.
it's great because it's assuming that if they respond accordingly and they'll move on, the phone call is the start of the hot stage. So that's a warm lead.
Now, the next one is if they respond to that email, they're now hot. Meaning, because remember, the trigger to upgrade is responses. And this time you might want to tell them, "Hi, John. I just wanted to say that I enjoyed our last conversation. If you have questions related to anything digital, just ask away. Also, I wanted to share with you this demo video on," insert whatever product video it is, "to give you a sneak peek of what it would be like to work with us. Looking forward to our next conversation." This is an email for someone that is on the brink of saying yes or signing the dotted line or
Right.
whatever it is. But in case this is not persuasive enough, a better example would be this.
"Hi, John. I took the liberty of attaching testimonials from our clients, just in case you're wondering how we take care of them. I also have a client who's been doing business with us copied in this email, and he's very excited to share his experience. Let us know when you're free to talk so I can schedule a call amongst the 3 of us. Looking forward to our next conversation." This is awesome because not only are you showing him the fact that so many people just enjoyed the experience with you,
Right.
you're also now about to get him on a phone call with someone who's already done it
Right.
before.
So you're leveraging social proof.
Right. Well, another thing is you're allowing the client to be able to ask the questions that he wouldn't have been otherwise able to ask
Right.
you, specifically about the experience from that perspective.
Right. Now, when we talk about automation, though, this is what we mean. And again, feel free to use these email samples that we're sending you, but these can be pre-programmed into a CRM. And using a CRM would look like this. This is how you simulate the care, and you don't leave it to your own personal thoughtfulness. That, "Oh, I had to call Jane. Oh, I had to call Steve." You don't want to leave any of this to your own personal levels of thoughtfulness. Simulate the care. Use a marketing automation tool, or, I'll shamelessly plug it in, use ours. This is what it looks like. It creates a list of all the leads that you're contacting, and it helps you execute on all the tips that we've had for you guys since the past 3, 4 webinars. It allows you to generate leads into your website. It allows you to find verticals and geo targets. It allows you to put them all in one place. It allows you to run site audits inside your website. It allows you to automate the communication with your leads so that you are the one that is consistently keeping in touch with them. So we finally came up with a name for it instead of saying software. And so I'm proud to be the one to get to announce
Drum roll.
that we are launching the Agency Advantage program. And what it does is it helps you find leads easier, it helps you qualify them better, and it helps you close them faster. Remember, over the past few webinars, we've been talking about finding, qualifying, and nurturing leads, driving leads to your website, building your agency's expertise. We will have master classes available exclusively to members of the Agency Advantage program and how-to sessions that are exclusive to them. And these allow you to showcase your authority with premium marketing materials. If you guys are not yet part of our wait list, feel free to join it by signing up through the bit.ly link below, which is bit.ly/premium-waitlist. Now, let's talk about a couple of actionable items.
So now that you've got everything in place, you understand that you'll need to qualify your leads, and definitely feel free to use our qualification checklist, but you can also come up with your own questions, and you can use your own model too. And then now you'll learn how to segment your leads according to their lead temperature: hot, warm, or cold, even disqualify.
Right.
And using targeted emails, the system allows you to send emails that correspond to the needs of your leads.
Right. And this is actually why we built the Agency Advantage program, because we want you guys to qualify your leads, segment your leads, send the right message at the right time, and automate this, meaning make your marketing easy. So we built an all-in-one solution that provides you with a powerful automated agency marketing software, exclusive agency masterclass, and premium monthly white label resources, all under one subscription. So let's move us forward. Don't miss it. If you're not part of our waitlist yet, join the Agency Advantage program. And we are running the Agency Advantage webinar for you guys in a few weeks from now, so that you guys can see the different features available in the program that we built specifically for you guys, what it can do, and how it can help you get your agency get started and become successful today. If you're looking for where to sign up, just feel free to follow the bit.ly link, and that's bit.ly/premium-waitlist. And this is sort of my last portion of the shameless plug. We now move on to your favorite parts of the webinar, which is the Q&A portion.
Right.
So for those of you guys that have not plugged in your questions yet, on the upper right side of the chat box, you can feel free to do so now. And for those that have, we'll start reading your questions one by one.
And if you're not able to send any questions, or if you're listening to this one as it becomes a recording, you feel free to call us at any time. Also, right now, we have project managers and business development officers just waiting on the phone.
Right, they're on chat, they're on the phones.
Or if you're a little shy, there's the email at info@seoreseller.com. I think we have...
Yeah, so let's pull up a couple of the first few questions. So the first one says, based on your experience, when do you think is the best time of day or when in the week to send emails that are likely to more opens and engagement? Okay, so it's hard to say based on our experience, so I'll let the cat out of the bag here a bit. One of the tools that we use to be in touch with you guys is Intercom, and it's it's what you call it's an event-driven CRM.
Right.
And so for us, there isn't a best time of day because Intercom responds when you're interacting with us. But what I can do is give you guys insight based off of MailChimp case studies. According to MailChimp, the best time of day to send the email is away from the first hour of work and away from the last hour of work. In fact, the most effective time is sometime within the middle portion of their working day.
Right.
And after 7 o'clock. Those seem to get the highest open rates. Now, also according to MailChimp data, the best time to send emails is between Tuesday to Thursday, because start of day, end of day.
Yep.
Monday and Friday are what they call peak deletion times.
Right.
So if you want your message in the face of your potential customers, you guys can follow MailChimp's wisdom. But that's only true for business to business solutions. There are of course some websites where they are more susceptible to more effective open rates when sent on weekends.
I'll read the
Okay.
next one.
Yeah.
So what's the marketing automation that you're providing with SEO Reseller?
This is the Agency Advantage program. It's so you guys remember how we built the you guys remember the dashboard, but there's also a site audit tool. When you guys run the site audit tool, it automatically collects the users that you've enrolled there because an email address is required in order to send out the audit.
Correct.
The email is consolidated into one place where all your leads are collected. So that's the first feature that it has. The second feature that it has is that if that list is not particularly long, there's a lead generator there where it automates doing multiple searches across multiple platforms. All you have to do is enter the industry and the geo target. And then it gives you, what it does is it scrapes the web for the information of your potential leads, people that you could start communicating with. The next thing that it does is it allows you to automate your marketing. So remember how we said simulate the care? It sends out the sequences that we were talking about on cold, warm, and hot. But again, nothing happens on hot without a phone call with you. So if you're interested in finding out more, feel free to follow the link at bit.ly/premium-waitlist. The waitlist has been full the first 3 times we've opened it. So I'm not sure if there's any available yet, but if you're not part of that list yet, feel free to sign up on the waitlist.
Because that webinar will pretty much answer most of those questions. Okay, let's get to the next one. The third one is it advisable to repurpose content that you'll be sending to leads? So I guess that's asking whether or not you should touch a template you've already worked on and if you need to adjust it, right? Or
Okay, so I guess the question is not very clear to me, so I'll try to answer it based on how I understand it. If what you mean by is it advisable to repurpose content that I'll be sending to leads is, can I send the same content to different leads? Then the answer is yes.
Yes.
But if you're saying, I would never advise, so even when we give you guys email templates to use, what we try to do is we try not to make the emails sound impersonal, meaning we don't want them to sound canned and we don't want them to sound repurposed. So if that's what the question is asking, I would recommend that you try to make your email sound as personal as possible. You don't have to create an email one for one. So one lead, one custom email. So you can automate the emails.
Right.
You will not believe how many people respond to our automated emails. But that's because a lot of effort goes in making them sound very natural.
You'll probably notice if you've already got a sequence going and somehow it keeps breaking because a client of yours or a good number of clients are responding in a way that you didn't expect that response to be, that means the messaging needs to be shifted. You're probably in your message, you're allowing more questions to be asked. So be careful also that you at least have more control about where you want to lead them. Again, that's the sales funnel. So building desire, getting them more educated, and moving towards an action is the most important.
I'll move us on to the next question. Will the Agency Advantage program have automated marketing built in? And the answer is yes. So there was a qualifier to that question. Will we be able to customize the sequences and lead nurture templates, or will they be pre-made generic emails? The answer is yes and yes. It will have automated marketing built in, and it will have pre-made generic templates like some of the samples that we sent you. It also has the attachments pre-built in, but you can customize it.
Right.
Meaning, if you're realizing that in your geo target you have better conversions with this attachment more than the other attachment, or you're realizing that your conversion rates seem to be better by starting off with an audit, by all means, you guys can start with an audit. So yes, it is customizable. The next one is, can you upload a CSV into the new CRM? And how I'll answer that is very safe. Join us on the Agency Advantage webinar, and Joshua will answer that question. So just to create a little suspense. Wow, there's a few more questions. Uh, the next one says, when do you check again if the lead you've sunsetted is becoming warm? How do you determine this? Great question. It's typically hard for you to determine this without the use of a CRM, which is
Right.
why we recommend the use of ours or any CRM, because all CRMs report on open rates and response rates. You upgrade them when they respond, and you sunset them when they don't respond in a 30-day period. So I'll repeat that. They can upgrade at any time frame, but try not to be too fast when it comes to downgrading them. You don't sunset people faster than a 30-day period.
Especially when you're going month by month anyways. Like we said earlier, post rate's about 90 days on
Right.
average. So
Right.
essentially what you want to make sure is if you've got a lead that already sunset 30 days after that first month, well, I guess it just requires a bit of homework, but the response is what can put them back.
Right.
The upgrade goes from there.
Interesting. An interesting question we've got is, what are the common mistakes that we need to avoid when doing lead scoring? Okay, so this is tough. So I'll answer this by saying, I think the most common mistake that salespeople make has less to do with scoring low and more to do with being too
Too high,
generous.
right.
Right. Most salespeople are too generous when it comes to lead scoring, meaning they got a neutral answer,
Right.
but they're all too happy to score them positively
Right.
against their lead scoring. And what they wind up doing is having way too many quote unquote hot leads.
Yeah.
So they have more hot leads there than they actually have. And so they don't wind up making the best use of their next 30 days.
Right.
Remember that you don't do an injustice to your prospect by marking them, by qualifying them as the right category of lead. And so if they scored a 6 on your lead score, then they scored a 6. The other common mistake that you guys might make is by only asking our questions. Those are not the only questions you can ask, because some questions may be unique to the geo target that you're in, or it might be unique to the vertical you serve.
Exactly.
So feel free to ask questions related to the industry or the geo target that you service. We've only got time, I guess, for one more email or for one more question. We've got a few. So I think I'm not going to cheat, but I guess I'm going to take a semi-easy one so that we make it just in time. What other channels apart from email do you recommend to nurture leads with? Wow. So in our case, we nurture you guys through chat, email, and phone call. If I had to choose 2 out of 3, and this is available to everybody, then it will always be email and phone call. But phone call by far is
It's
the
the
most
strongest.
important. Right.
Right.
Remember, nothing happens in hot without you giving them a call. And with that, that's unfortunately our last question. If you guys had a question that you feel is very important, feel free to ring our toll-free number. And again, if you're not part of our wait list, uh, sign up to the wait list by following the Bitly link here at the bottom, which is bit.ly/premium-waitlist. And with that, I guess I'll say thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to you guys joining us on the Agency Advantage webinar, which is happening a couple of weeks from now, and we'll start sending.
Actually, it's actually next week, Friday, I think.
Oh, it's happening next week, Thursday.
Thursday. All right.
So yeah, you guys join us next week, Thursday. You guys should be seeing the invite come out today or tomorrow. So we'll start sending the invites out for the webinar. And we look forward to you guys joining us there. This has been Bernard, and
William.
yep, thank you very much for joining us again. And well, we hope to see you next week and on our other future webinars. We hope this has been valuable to you guys, and we appreciate the time you spent with us tonight or today.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
Cheers.